These people got screwed over by their pensions. It's freaking disgusting. It's despicable. And it just should never happen again. And thankfully it doesn't. And thankfully, you have 401ks instead. 403bs, 401ks, defined contribution plans. I'm telling you, man, this is freaking despicable stuff I'm going to share with you here in just a second. And people say, it's not like that anymore. Okay, the same people say it's not like that anymore. The same people say, we got to go back to the way it was. And I'll get in all this here in just a second. Man, oh, be grateful for your 401k. Be grateful. That's a scam. It's a 201k, blah, 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 blah. Oh, so frustrating. So frustrating. Be grateful for it because your 401k is your money. It follows you once you're vested. And I think vesting, you shouldn't have to wait 2 to 5 years for vesting. I'll go into it. It should be yours immediately. Oh, there's a baby. He wants to come in. Hold on just a sec. I start doing a video, a dog starts yelling at me. Say, Dad, pay attention to me. Here's, all right. Well, all right, so let's dive into this. This is just despicable. All right, so here's on the 1968 Pensacola News Journal. This is a wire. It's an AP, I think, had written this. So what happens in a wire? So back in the old days, and it's actually probably still somewhat today because it's just less papers now. Basically like your local news rag would have their local. There's Pablo. Hi, look at him. There he is. Your local news rag would basically write the local paper stuff, but they'd get reports from the Associated Press, UPI, and some others, syndicate writers and whatnot. That would do more of the world and the national stuff. And so even though this was published in the Pensacola News Journal, it was published amongst many different papers this guy's writing because, again, how the wires work. But here we go. Think you've got a pension coming? Odds are you'll never get a cent. If you think you've got a pension coming, you better take another look at your plan and read the fine print. There very likely is no pot of gold waiting for you at the end of the rainbow. The great pension mirage begins today and will continue in the daily, the Pensacola News. So let's check this out because this is 1968, just 2 years before your old buddy Josh was born. All right. Millions of Americans who think they're covered by a pension won't get a cent. In fact, 75% of the workers who think they'll get a private pension will never see a pension check. This startling disclosure from the Department of Labor. Workers leave a job before retirement. They're constantly changing jobs, geared to an economy with constantly changing technology and changing demand for goods and services. The plain fact is that while our American economy was the most mobile in the history, our pension plans, except for Social Security, are designed for the one job for a life economy. Yep, and let's keep reading here. Economy of 100 years ago. In addition to this complicated rule denies benefits to many others who have worked under private pensions. Interesting. 10,000 pension funds blew up, collapsed, or just faded away in the last 12 years. Some pension funds are excellent, but even though these are subject to rules that can deny a pension to a woman who's worked in a garment factory 8 years a day for 29 years, or a man who's built autos for 43 years. These are real cases. Ms. X worked for a dress manufacturer covered by the International Ladies Garment Workers Union pension plan from 1931 to 1944. Then she stayed home for 6 years to giving birth to a daughter and rearing her to school age. Then in 1950, she went back to work in the same industry on the same pension plan until 1966. So she had worked for 29 years under the pension plan. At 62, Ms. X, then a grandmother, was eligible for Social Security, and she decided to retire. The union said she was not eligible for the pension because the pension plan provides that women at 62 and men at 65 with 20 years of attachment to the industry in the last 25 years immediately preceding retirement are eligible. With 29 years of service, Ms. X did not meet the specifics 20 years in the last 25 years. She would have had to come back 1 year sooner after her break in service in order to be eligible. She and thousands of others who have left their jobs for varying periods are no longer entitled to pensions. William Kelly was a chief mechanic in a biscuit manufacturing company in New Orleans. This company had an employment administrative pension plan. When he reached 65, he said, I applied for my pension, but I could not get one. The bosses in the company replaced the cash in the pension funds with IOUs, which are now worthless. Paul Mendez worked in the quality control division of a winery in California. 1 year before he was to retire, the winery was bought out by a competitor. When Mendez applied for his pension, he discovered that the new company had cut his pension in half. These plans and thousands like them had promised the worker that when he retired, not only would he find Social Security check in his mailbox, but he would also receive a check from his pension fund. These checks would have allowed him to live comfortably, even if modestly, for all the years of retirement. The facts belie the promises. Of the millions of workers covered by private pensions, only 1 out of every 4 will either collect a cent, will ever collect a cent. The other 3, some of whom may participate in pension plans all their working years, will get absolutely nothing. They will have to struggle on with inadequate Social Security checks, gifts from the children, and public welfare, 100%. Consider this. The DOL, the U.S. Department of Labor, predicts that by 1980, pension plans will cover 42 million Americans have assets over $225 billion. This will be an amount greater to the assets of all the life insurance companies in the country combined. These billions are for the property of the beneficiaries. Every company contracting to pay a pension calculates its contribution to its pension system as part of its cost of labor, just as much as it counts workman's compensation, hospitalization, cafeteria losses, Social Security gifts as cost of labor. In fact, the union negotiations companies often say something like this: we'll settle for 50 cents more an hour, all right? We'll settle for 50 cents more an hour for the new contract, and you have it divided any way you want in hourly wages, increased hospital benefits, pensions, whatnot. The fact that pension contributions are part of wages and that pensions belong to the men and women who earn them is beyond challenge. Why then? Why is hundreds of billions piled up? Can't the worker opt out? Can't the worked out aging men or women always get his pension? There's one basic reason. Pension plans are so drawn up that the worker has little rights to the money his labor has helped accumulate. The catches in the plan wipe out a worker's rights. 100%. 700,000 workers lose. Pension plans legally sunk. Check this out here. This is crazy. All right, right here. Right here. One catastrophic closing was at a Studebaker plant in South Bend. The pension plan was started in 1950. The start of this, let's see. How many workers lost their pensions because of a 9-year postponement of amortization is not on the record. Then the plant is closed. One man told a congressional committee, check this, no, we just went this. We just did all that. No, sir. My name is Nolan Miller. I'm 59 and have worked at Studebaker since 1926. I have a boy 16 at home, and I don't see any possibility for him to get a college education. I had depended on my Studebaker pension along with Social Security for a living when I reached retirement. There was never any serious thought that we might lose our pensions because of plant closing. When we finally came to the realization that only those who already retired or had reached 60 by November 1964 could get a pension because the plan wasn't sufficiently funded. Dude, it's freaking insane. Can you imagine? Plant can move from one city to another. Unless all the workers follow, they lose their pension rights. Here we got a guy right here. Where do I stand? I am 58. I've worked at this plant all my life. My wife wants to know if I get a pension. How long will it continue? Why? Because there are $2.5 million in pension liabilities and only $800,000 of assets. The fact is, the present owners bought this plant 6 years ago and are transferring operations little by little. They really bought the product line of the customer rather than the physical facilities, and that they do not assume any liability for a worker's pension. Until a man retires and is actually collecting a pension under contract, he has no legal right to sue his employer or to fulfill the terms of the pension contract. Such is the law. Here. Directors of companies and labor leaders who usually set up the pension plans are the people who are the trustees, generally speaking. They are the men who choose the bank or insurance company to administer the fund, and they are the men who tell the bank how to invest. If a participant in a pension fund suspects trustees are using the money for their own interest, there's nothing he can do about it. They may be robbing him of his pension, but no law protects him. If he tried to sue, the only result might be that he would lose his job. Ah, man, a curious feature of the pension funds that employers and labor leaders almost always collect handsome pensions. Sometimes they participate in multiple ones. So this is what I love right here. After the failure of the banks, we set up the FDIC, and then he starts proposal would be to set up the PBGC, which we ultimately did. But that's a fact right here, man. That's a good thing that we got the PBGC. The problem with the PBGC, of course, is expensive, and the companies don't want to be on the hook for these pensions. So they say, look, we're going to let you do it. We don't want the responsibility. And so you do it. Your money, it's your money. And what I like about that guy who wrote this, there's another one too, which I'm not going to read you here. Go, buddy. What I write, he said, look, this is deferred comp. This is deferred wages. The cost of employee is $100 a week. He's using this in 1968. The income for employees is $100 a week, but it actually costs the business. Come on. Oh, he wants to play fetch. Come on, up here. Let's see. Come in. Come on, up. Come on. Look, he's got his. Oh, yes, sir. He wants to play fetch. Here comes Pablo. All right, so the cost of the company is 120. So the guy's only making 100 for fringe for salary, but his cost 120. Some of those fringe benefits, insurance and whatnot, but the other is deferred compensation that would be paid out during the pension plan. The pension plan and your 401k should be 100% vested in you right now. That should be your money right out the gate. You shouldn't have to wait 2 years or 5 years, whatever it is for safe harbors, 2 years, or a cliff vesting. You're like, no. The company put that in there for my benefit. That is my money, because if they didn't do that, in theory, I would get a higher salary. Anyway, the whole thing's crazy, man. And that's just the same thing with 401ks, too. But the thing with the pensions, everyone just looks back. The pensions were great. We need to go back. It's freaking insane. Well, now we have laws to protect us against that. Yeah, and those laws make it more expensive to manage the pensions. On top of that, you got to work for 10, 15, 20, 30 years to get the pension. Well, I can get a pension after 5 years. Yeah, it's not going to be that much. All right, you get $200 a month. Would you rather have that or $40,000 in your 401k? I'd rather have the $40,000 because you're also not going to get that pension to what, 60, 65. I'm not against pensions. I do it. People got pensions all the time, and when they work, they're freaking fantastic. The problem is there's not this panacea back in the old days that is so much better than it is today. And we'll just read it again real quick. Let me show you what I'm talking about. George Barash, he was the head of two labor unions, the Allied Trades Council and Teamsters, which had 8,000 members. These unions had a combined assets of $4 million. The trust agreement for the pension governing this fund rivaled only Swiss cheese in regard to loopholes. It did not restrain Barash from transferring all the money in this pension plan into two foundations, one in Puerto Rico and the other in Liberia. And he had complete control over both of these foundations. As soon as the transfer was completed, not one member of these two unions could ever collect a cent in pension money. Not one. Under existing law, the Department of Labor, the Department of Justice, the IRS, the state of New York had no legal means to stop him. When we asked about it, the senator said, I respectfully decline the answer that I might incriminate myself. Despite all the furor caused by the hearings, he still managed to acquire for himself a pension amounting to $54,000 a year. This is 1968. Check this guy out. We got Gus Y, a Teamster, was told when he went to work that he would get a pension of $200 a month. But when he retired, he only got $135. He asked the business agent to withdraw his retirement so he could go back to work, but he was refused. And so with his pension, because he could go back to work, he lost his house and his car. Luis was a loom worker in Falls River, Massachusetts, was fired the day before the plant closed down and a few days before his 65th birthday, when he would have been entitled to the full pension. He sued, but the courts ruled he was not entitled to the pension. Fred W. was a member of Midwest Painters Union for 38 years. When he retired, the union gave him a pension of $30 a month. At a union meeting, he was critical of the investment practices of the pension trustees. They re-examined his pension claim, and on that grounds, they found he spent 3 months in Florida 1 year and did not pay his dues. Thus, they revoked his tiny pension. There are thousands of such cases, all building pension funds to greater size. Whose money is this? And why is it being misused? That's crazy, man. I think we got one more. Yeah, Max X, a painter and a union member for 40 years, couldn't find a job in New York City, so he went to Westchester County for 3 years. When he returned to New York, he discovered that he had lost all his pension rights when he took a job in an adjoining county. Dude, I'd rather have control of my money. Even if I put it in the bank, at least I'll be keeping up with inflation. I tell you, being in control of your own money is a hell of a lot better than letting these guys do it. That's for sure. But now we got the PBGC. Okay. Anyway, don't look back in the past and say the glory days. It's just wrong in every stretch of the imagination. These people got screwed. I don't know what happened to them. Thank the good Lord we got Social Security. Don't wish for the past. All right. Love to hear your thoughts. God bless. See you.